the tallest building in Atlanta. And what you see now is the result of 6 mayors who happen to be black, brown, or beige, or whatever you want to call it, but they were all colored people. And they believed in this city, and we decided that if we were honest and disciplined, that we could make this a truly international city and make it a place where people from all over the world would want to bring their money and invest. And so all that you see around here, including that airport was not there back then. In fact, the airport was a Quonset hut with 1 runway. But the mayor at that time, Mayor Hartsfield, had the vision at least to make the 1 runway the only runway in the south of the United States where jets could land, even though there were no airlines flying jets. So we've been living in the future here since the 60s. And so we invite you here because we want to export the vision, the ideals, and the energy that people like Martin Luther King and Maynard Jackson and Ivan Allen and Mayor Hartsfield all put into this city. But this is also a city where W.E.B. Du Bois was a teacher, and where Howard Thurman brought in a kind of a mystical vision of what life could be when Martin Luther King was a student at Morehouse College as a 15-year-old. And so you're on holy ground. And so don't take this for granted. Take this as a vision that you can take wherever you're going, and that this is what's possible. I was in the elevator with Deepak Chopra, who was one of those visionaries who, in the words of Robert Kennedy, says, some people see things as they are and ask why they're so messed up. And others see things as they should be and could be and ask why not. And so that's what this week is about. And I kind of got hooked up to John Bryant because John Bryant was one of the few leaders that understood the unfinished work of Martin Luther King. We started the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to redeem the soul of America from the triple evils of racism, war, and poverty. I think we did pretty good on racism, in spite of all that you see now. Things are not worse, believe me. And yet we did not make the progress that we would have made had he lived in dealing with poverty. And what John has been talking about is how we end poverty. Now, we had the director, chairman of the FDIC with us this afternoon with the board. And she talked about how she achieved her citizenship. And she never mentioned voting. What she talked about was how she came here and ended up qualifying for a credit card. But a credit card that was different from most credit cards because it was an investment in her future. And she used the phrase, she became a shareholder in this democracy. And I think that's what we gotta find a way. That's what financial literacy is all about. How do we become shareholders? How do we become stakeholders? How do we become beneficiaries? How do we inherit and continue to develop the wealth and the vision that our ancestors and forebears put into this land to make it the great land that it is? And as I had been a civil rights leader, preacher, mayor, everything else, and I never heard a credit score until I met John Bryant. And I was living pretty good because I was disciplined. But when John and I got together, he kind of showed me how to get my credit score up from all of those notes that I co-signed for people in the movement that they didn't pay off. And my children going to college and no debt, and coming out with no debt, but I had a debt. But this is a very serious week. I started talking about Atlanta, and we'll talk about that through the rest of the week. But what we're doing here really came from Africa. It came from Africa by way of India, but it also came from Africa by way of Africa directly. And the two guests that we have that I'd like to present to you, one from Ghana and one from Namibia, two of the great countries of the future of this planet. And it's where lots of the great visions and, well, you may not have you've probably been to Ghana, but you may not have been to Namibia. But Namibia is sort of like an original California with only 2 million people. But with all the gold, the diamonds, the uranium, the bauxite, whatever you need, they got it. It is twice the size of California, and there are only 2 million people there. And we have the Minister of Development with us. But age before beauty, and because with age comes brains. And from Ghana, and that's sort of where Martin Luther King got his vision. He was there at Ghana's independence, and he told us that the most impressive thing about Ghana's independence was that almost everybody at the being sworn in as a government wore their prison caps, and they did not become free without struggle. And so he said to us, freedom is never easy and it's never free, but it's not only possible, it's inevitable if we're committed. And so Dr. Barfour, the ambassador of Ghana to the United States, and a man who answered a question that I've been looking for the last 20 years, just now. I met a lady who went to Ghana with cancer, and twice. And she met an artist who was a faith healer and a physician, but he cured her. And then he died, but he left all of his herbal knowledge of thousands of years of healing in Africa in the care of his friends in Ghana. And I've been trying to find a way to get that back here to Morehouse Medical School or to Howard's Medical School, because there's a lot of knowledge and wisdom that we have been cut off from. So, Mr. Ambassador, would you bring us greetings from the motherland? And thank you very much for joining us.